So let's move on to our final topic. We'll spend maybe like 20, 30 minutes on, then we'll wrap it up for this week's show.
Sounds
And
good.
for everybody new watching, be sure to check out our Discord channel link down below, the Patreon, and of course the first book that we've been talking about as well. But with that said, the topic that Rob and I were talking about before the stream has to do with Sony pulling out of E3 of next year and kind of the state of game shows and conferences like that. And this is something I think, depending upon your own knowledge base of the industry, you may know or have heard of some shows but have no idea about others. Like most general consumers probably know about E3. But how many people know about GDC? Or I think Gamescom is another very big one. That's like the European show. But it's always been a very interesting case of how these shows apply to the greater sense of the game industry. Because as we know, with the rise of YouTube and Twitch, it's very easy for somebody to reveal big name announcements that way rather than go to a major show like that. So, Rob, you obviously have more industry experience than I do at this point. What do you make of like these kinds of trade shows and these conferences?
Well, it kind of goes way back for me. I mean, I've been to, I want to say 7 or 9 or something like that E3s, and I probably went to GDC twice, maybe 3 times. GDC again is just for those who aren't too aware. It's like an insider show. It's a game industry professionals only show. In which people go and I guess just kind of exchange information and show off what they got to other industry professionals, and you go to little classes and whatnot, or lectures, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
It's all very interesting and kind of mellow, at least from my perspective. I don't go to any of the industry events or the parties, as it were. E3 is, to me, I've always described it as Las Vegas in a box. When I went there in the mid 2000s, it was basically just noise and flashing lights and just loudness, and I get exhausted pretty easily just with that much sensory overload. So I can spend maybe a couple hours walking around the show floor, and then I have to go sit at Starbucks for a while and decompress. But it's a much more high octane experience. And with last year, gosh, who was it? Not Microsoft. Who was a big one who did not show up last year?
Nintendo?
No, Nintendo always shows up. They always have a really big booth that's super popular. But I think it was one of the big developers decided not to show up. Maybe it was Electronic Arts or Activision, but Sony and Microsoft always had booths that were right next to each other, and you could go to both of them and see all the newest games. And I feel like that's the reason why a developer or publisher might not go, because their games are on display at one of the major, like Sony or Microsoft. So with Sony dropping out, and Sony and Microsoft tend to have the biggest, and Activision and EA have big ones too, big booths, as you would call them. But at that size, it's not a booth anymore. And so with Sony going, it has a couple of things. One, it takes away an awful lot of the interest level of going, to a show. Certainly you'd wait for a Sony announcement. Maybe there's a new console or a piece of hardware that they're working on that you'd want to see. But with them gone, that kind of goes away. They might have an announcement, but you won't be able to play anything.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal. Because they have dozens and dozens of stations to go and play, which, not to, no pun intended there, but a lot of areas where we can go and play all the variety of games that they're having coming out that year, just to kind of showcase their hardware. And yeah, with them going out, not only does it get rid of that aspect for fans, which this is year 2 or 3 of fans being able to go out, as opposed to industry professionals. GDC much more lower level, much less visibility, where E3 has always been an industry event. Publicly visible, but now public can go. And with Sony dropping out, I feel like that's a big hit to the fans who want to go and who have already probably bought tickets. So that going away is a big deal, and it opens up all kinds of floor space, which is one of those things that you don't really think about, is the floor space at one of these events, because a chunk that big which could often be like a quarter the size of the one of the bigger halls. That's a lot of space to fill up, and it's a lot of like most of the time these small booths don't always get purchased or
Hmm.
rented. So you basically have all this real estate that has to be filled by something.
Yep.
And I'm interested to see like what fills that gap, you know. If it's gonna lower the cost so a bunch of indie developers can get in and showcase their stuff. I know that would be a huge dream of an indie developer to be able to showcase their stuff at an E3.
Hmm.
It's not necessarily worth the cost, but an experience. That was one thing that happened early on. Is I worked for Visual Concepts, and way back in like 2006, like one of the big decisions was to stop presenting at E3 because it was such a sinkhole of money, and
Hmm.
they were struggling to compete with Electronic Arts, EA Sports, at that time, and it was just a basically a bottom line kind of decision where you're just like, you know what, this is tens of thousands of dollars that we are blowing, if not 100,000 or more, of renting space and flying people down and getting everything set up and hosting events and that kind of thing. It's just way too much money to warrant the expense if you're a struggling company. Which at the time there was that period of like, oh my gosh, are we going to go out of business kind of thing. Um, so they decided to get rid of it, and it works out fine. No one complained. I mean, the games are still available. There's still plenty of places to go play them and see them. It's a sports game. It's coming out every year. It's not going to be
Hmm.
too terribly different than last year. You can read all the press still. So as a fan back then, you weren't missing much because you weren't able to attend. But again, with this year being, with the fans being able to come the last few years, it's a big deal. So yeah, I'm interested to see what happens there, what the ripples are from that
Hmm.
impact.
Yeah. And like as you said, it's such a huge cost for like an E3 show to go out there because you have to rent the space, you have to build the booth, you have to make sure people know you're there, so there's advertising involved. And not to mention, of course, for the games that go on like center stage, like when you have like a Microsoft conference or an EA conference, many of those developers have to make the quote unquote E3 demo that they have to put on there, which is again that's time taken out of actually making the real game to make this like 5 to 10 minutes
Yeah.
of glory footage that may never even be in the actual game. And like we said, with the rise of YouTube and all that, you can have these announcements break, days before, even months before, and then you just lose all that momentum. Because I know Nintendo, I remember one of the big things was Nintendo was going to announce their collaboration with Fortnite to get that on the Switch, and that news was broke a few days beforehand. And that could have been a huge thing. But again, it raises that point. Why should I spend money to go to E3 when I can literally watch a video that tells me all the announcements right then and there?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Do early access because devs need the money? Do publishers not cover the financials of early access? Yeah, I mean for an indie game, I think most indie developers, and this is a bit of a sidetrack, but most indie developers don't get money for their games unless they're a known entity.
Mm-hmm.
Because unless you can prove that you're going to make money, there's no reason to cough up funds. I'm well aware of how that works out. But going back to the convention thing, yeah, it does, and the ripple effect across all of the conventions, because conventions are a big money making endeavor right now, or at least have been in the last several years. Because yeah, there's a ton of money you're just hosting, and you're getting money from all these publishers and
Mm-hmm.
developers to showcase their stuff. And you're in a big city, and you can find cheap venues that are fairly creative and interesting, and get people from all over the world to come and attend and give you money. So when a big vendor like that drops out, one that would give you a ton of money,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that gives you pause into like, well, we already rented the conference spaces. We have to sell all this space to make our money back. There was a conference called GDC Next, which came out of GDC, which was in Austin, Texas. And that was a huge, like when they dropped out of Austin, Texas, everyone was so angry at them. And then they showed up in Los Angeles, which pissed people off even more because GDC is already in California and E3 is already in Los Angeles. So having another show in Los Angeles just kind of, everyone in California is all good. We can go to whatever we want now, and people across the country now have to travel further and more times throughout the year to come to one of these events. And when you compare to E3, which is giant, and you have billboards the size of the convention center, like marketing pieces the size of the convention center hanging up, and you can see them from the freeway. This event is happening. Buses have advertising on them. Devolver Studios rents out a giant parking lot in front of the convention center. They're not even in the show. They're outside of the show.
But they still pull on a show.
Exactly, what's going on. And then GDC Next, I arrived like year one. I think they were there for 2 years, and that was it. And you had no idea that a show was going on. You're like, am I on the right day? Is this the right location? And you walk in, and whereas E3 takes up these two major halls and then all space on the second floor and the first floor between them, this took up one tiny hall in the middle. So I had never seen this hall before. Most people hadn't, and it only took up a third of that hall. So to say it was underwhelming is just that's an overstatement and an exaggeration. And so when a show like that can't get the attendees that they want, it's just going to die out. And I'm wondering if this is like the first sign of death for E3. We'll see. It was. I mean, it's been a mainstay. We'll see if they can keep it up.
Yeah. And like as you said, with like something like GDC, it's very much not really like the gamer show. I mean, the most value we get out of that are all the fantastic GDC presentations and the GDC vault there. But again, like we've said, there's always that disconnect between the community side / journalists and the game developers. And I think GDC and E3 is probably one of the big parts, because you do not see YouTubers and streamers at GDC. You don't see those. You don't see someone like Markiplier or IGN cover the big announcements out of a GDC show. But GDC is very valuable for building up your network and for getting those very fascinating talks. Like the failure workshops are very interesting to watch. I know, like, that stuff is valuable for any independent developer to take those notes on about what happens when your game doesn't work. And I think with something like GDC, as you said, being on the West Coast like that, it also limits it in terms of travel. I know we now have the Penny Arcade show or the PAX shows. I think there's like, what are there, like 3 or 4 of those a year? Or like there are various ones here on the East Coast, which is great. But it would have been nice to have maybe like a GDC East at some point, just to make it easier for people to go to. I know with a lot of the stuff going on politically wise, especially with travel bans and stuff like that, there are a lot of international developers who aren't either interested or can't make it to GDC next year.
Yeah, and it's a giant pain, and like you say, the accessibility of online makes it so much easier. Like why, like for example, you try really hard to get into GDC, and you have legitimate experience and knowledge that that isn't necessarily always there, because you wind up getting the same lecturers every single year. There's kind of an insiders group, and to break in, you have to do a variety of things to get in. And this is not from personal experience. This is from talking with people who have presented multiple times and who have given me suggestions as to how I might want to get into the circuit. And it is a circuit. Like the more people you know, the more shows you can talk at. And the fact is, Josh has a show here that he does daily, and he has books out, and he could, if you want, just do a lecture series like he does at the libraries and just show them online, so that someone can listen to someone talk about all the stuff he's learned about game design over the years and the people he's talked to, without having to travel to San Francisco in one of the most expensive areas in certainly in the country, if not the world, and get a hotel room and make sure that you can travel to and from the convention every day. And it's just such a pain in the butt. And as much as I liked going there, I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for a long time. It's not necessarily worth it. Like I just get exhausted at those shows, and it's just not my cup of tea. So I would much prefer to go online and just watch someone's video at whenever I want.
Hmm. Yep. And again, if you can cut down that cost and still provide information, why not do it? Again,
Right.
Nintendo with Nintendo Directs have been like one of their another very smart decision by them. They don't need to rent out a huge convention or have to spend all that money. They can just literally put on a show every 2 to 3 months talking all about their games, and everybody will listen to them because well they're Nintendo.
Hmm.
And what you said earlier regarding like the cost of setting this stuff up again, it takes a lot of money to run like an E3 or even something like GDC. So if you're not pulling in those major companies, where's that money coming from to keep that show going?
Yeah, I mean, for Sony, that is really big because that's a major part of I'm sure their income that just is gone now. And to make it up through a bunch of smaller booths, I don't know if they can do that because most people who'd get a smaller booth can't afford it. It is an expensive thing. You have to, I mean, like you say, you pay for the booth, you pay for setting up the booth, you have to pay people to bring in your stuff because they won't necessarily let you in because of, unions, which, whatever. But like, then you have to travel and you have to pay for travel for anyone else from your company coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's food and hotel and just, it all just adds up so much because hotel for a couple of days at a hotel in
Oh
downtown Los
God.
Angeles, I mean, that's going to be $1,000 for
Yep.
one person.
Mm-hmm. I know. I did that. And that
So-
was even a nice hotel. That was just like more like below average. But yeah,
right.
you said a nicer hotel. That's probably be running like 2 to 3 grand by the end of the week.
Yep.
And don't forget food as well, because you're going to have to pay for your meals. I still say that was the week I found that I can't eat cheeseburgers every day. It's one of those things like, it sounds great in theory, but then when you actually do it, by like day 3, like, I can't do this anymore. Like, what the hell is wrong with me? I can't enjoy my favorite meal.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's beneficial to live in the LA area or
Mm-hmm.
the San Francisco Bay Area to go to these things because it really is like a flight from here to San Francisco is cheap. I have family that lives up there. I could that I've stayed with to go to GDC
Mm-hmm.
before, and it's super convenient for me. But like, so it cost me maybe $20 to get a train like from Orange
Mm-hmm.
County now where I live to get a train up to the LA subway and then just go right downtown. $20 to get there, and then another say 20 to eat. So that's nothing. That's not even a half of a room at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just to me like unless you're a hobnobber, unless you're someone who's in sales, or unless you're actively looking for a job and have the money to be able to go to one of these things, I no longer see the value except to meet up with people from the industry that I've known over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even like going to parties, so it's just like one of those things where I've been there, I've done that. I don't know if I need to go back.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, as Malwinia said, like it's still networking. I mean, you can certainly meet a lot of people at these trade shows, and that certainly helps. But I think we do need to see more. Again, not like something like Penny Arcade, not like a quote unquote gamer show, but I think we need to see more game developer shows out there. Again, I know Gamescom is a big one in Europe. I think there's another big one for developers. I can't remember. If anyone knows, I think it's like in. I think it's a European show. Mm.
I do think there's a lot of value in having a public-facing show like
Mm-hmm.
E3 had for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
because that generates a lot of interest in the industry, and there's a little bit of intrigue there, but there's a lot of interest, a lot of coverage. Now to make it publicly facing, I know when I went there the first year they did this. Excuse me again. The I felt so bad because it cost a lot of money just to get a ticket. It cost the money for travel and hotel, like we'd all already covered. But then you get in, and the lines to see anything were hours to wait in. So if you wanted to see anything from Nintendo, you had to wait hours just to play for
Mm-hmm.
about 10 minutes. Um, if you wanted to see, oh gosh, like Battlefield 2 or whatever, I think had come out, you had to sign in ahead of time. Um, Was it Battlefield or Battleground? I honestly can't remember. I'm so terrible at that the names. But like you had to sign in ahead of time. Like I'd like to come back at 4:30 and participate in the thing there. And then like you say, the show demos are buggy as heck. And so you get there, and it might have already been delayed because the game crashed for someone else. So it's just, and to Mike's point, yeah, that's really great. I went to the Valve's show, Steam Dev Days, one year, and I thought that was a fantastic show. But again, it's only for developers, and it's not publicly facing, nor would the public get anything out of it because nothing's really being shown. It's not like the location where they'd announce Half-Life 3, or they would do that just whenever the heck they wanted, because honestly, if they announced that, I think the world would explode. But yeah, that's I think I've said more than my piece on that.
Now, there is still one other part we have to talk about before we'll wrap it up, and that is the idea of the Game of the Year award shows and those kinds of major conferences or presentations. Because as we know, we're only a few weeks away from December, and that means everybody is going to be putting out their best of 2018 list. I'm sure there are a few who have already done it by now. And to me, these shows are also just I don't care about them at all. I guess before I get into my little rant, what do you think about like stuff like the Game Awards and stuff like that? Like, I do know like GDC has their own award shows, which I do like. I do like seeing developers give awards to other developers. But what about these other ones?
I mean, I guess they have their place. I've never been interested in award shows. I think that they're kind of boring to me, and they don't make anybody happy except the people who worked on the game, maybe, or the people who are fans of that game. Like every year, there's games that deserve it and don't even get mentioned, and there's games that win and shouldn't have gotten it. And so it's just such a weird thing, these award shows. It's all bought and paid for. I believe that has been showcased a few times. Certainly, to be even nominated, you have to be very much on the forefront of marketing. But it does seem to me like it's if my project were ever nominated for an award, I would suddenly be like, oh yeah, I got nominated for an award. But like, it just is. I'm not at all interested in them. But that's in general. So like, I'm not someone who watches the Oscars or anything like that. And I know a lot of people love watching the Oscars, but it's just never something I could get into.
And as you were talking there, Rob, I was looking at the Game Awards nominees and all that, and just slowly going insane, reading what games were voted for it.
What do we got?
Oh, and there's a double this time, because there's another show. Apparently, CBS is going to be putting on the Gamers' Choice Award on December 9th, hosted by Carrie Keegan, I don't know who that is, and director of Twitch Studios, Marcus DJ Wheat Graham. That's another thing that just begins to irk me when they start to include their gamer tags for like hosts and famous award shows and stuff like that.
I do like that. I gotta say, I like the gamer tag thing for esports, especially. It's like I don't care if your name is John Smith. If you're like Go Gadget 13, then yeah, I think that's more interesting.
So this is a show where the fans and the gamers get to vote, and yes, that sounds as exciting and educational as I'm sure we're all thinking right now. So here are a few of the categories which I'm sure we all care about. Let's see, there's the Fan Favorite Male Gamer Streamer Award. There's the Fan Favorite Female Gamer Award. None of these names I know at all. The Fan Favorite Game, with Fortnite being the very first one listed there. Fan Favorite Single Player Gaming Experience, good. Well, don't worry, the awards get worse. Hold on. Where is it? Fan Favorite. Oh, here's one. Fan Favorite Retro Game. And your choices are Pong, Space Invaders, Super Mario Bros., The Legend of Zelda, and Tetris. That's it. Those are the apparently only 5 games that ever exist.
That's interesting. I mean,
That hurts me.
that's a little insulting.
That really hurts me after our last segment about talking about retro games.
Yeah, especially since why are you giving out an award? Is this like a lifetime achievement thing,
I
or
don't
is it just
know.
like because it does seem like one of those things where there's plenty of retro style games that just came out this year.
hmm And
Okay.
here's another conundrum for everybody. On the fan favorite retro character list, why is Bonk from Bonk's Adventure on this list and none of the Castlevania characters?
That's a good question.
Oh,
The
but
paddle
wait.
from Pong.
hmm Oh, but wait, it gets better. There's the fan favorite esports moment, and none of these I've ever even heard of. Oh, most desired franchise resurrection, because that's what I really care about. But Earthbound's listed on there, so maybe that's a little bit better. But don't worry, we're going to get to some crazy stuff here. Fan favorite esports team. Where was I? Just saw the one that's just very weird. Fan favorite esports caster. That wasn't it. Wait. Fan favorite esports caster and fan favorite esports hosts are two different categories.
I'm interested. Who are on those lists?
For the casters,
Yeah.
let's see. Names I've never heard of. Indiana Frostcurin Black, Clint Maven Evans, Rivington Bistland III, Mitch Uber Leslie, Lauren Pansy Scott. I have no idea who any of these people are. I mean, I really don't know. I get to sound old even again. Oh, but wait, here's the one that I wanted to mention because this is what I know everybody cares about. There's the award category for favorite celebrity gamer in the musician category. Marshmello, Post Malone, Snoop Dogg, Drake, Lupe Fiasco, and Justin Bieber. Because when I think about video games, I think about Justin Bieber. And that just hurt my soul saying that. But then there's the favorite celebrity gamer, the athlete edition. Because and then there's favorite celebrity gamer, the actor edition as well.
Oh, of course.
I had no idea Henry Cavill was a gamer. Apparently he is. And so is Zac Efron. Because that's the kind of information I need to know about as somebody who studies game design. But wait, this is the last one, then we'll get back to the game awards. The other award category, and this is the one that is hurting me even more. Gaming Moment of the Year. And these are your choices. Ninja plays with Drake. The Happy Hob beats the Dark Souls trilogy without taking a single hit. Red Dead Redemption 2 has the biggest opening weekend. Dr. Disrespect hits a $100 headshot. I have no idea what that means. Tyler 1 returns to League of Legends. 16-year-old Joseph Sully becomes Tetris World Champion. And then Soviet Womble attempts a tactical strategy. What the hell does that last one mean, Rob? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't. I think this show in particular, we've dated ourselves quite a bit.
Those words don't seem to be English to me. I don't understand what that means. Attempts a tactical strategy. What the hell? Oh my god. I'm serious. What does that mean? Attempts a tactical strategy.
We need to have a third person on the show that's like 15 years old that can explain all this stuff.
Yes, we need. Well, I have a fan who's like 8 years old. Maybe I get him on. He can be our youth advisor here. Oh my god. I'm serious. When people watch his live record, attempts a tactical strategy. Yes, that's a No, that's not a category. That's a Gaming Moment of the Year nominee. Oh my god. Ugh. It hurts me, Rob. It really does.
Yeah, it does. It's a little Kids' Choice Awardsy for me.
But now to wash that disgusting thing out of my mouth, let's talk about the Game Awards categories, because I'm sure this will be even better.
Yeah, this is not going to hurt at all.
No, it's not. So, Game of the Year, Celeste actually made it on there, which is nice. So Red Dead Redemption 2, but I'm pretty sure Red Dead Redemption 2 is going to win it. Best ongoing game does not mention Warframe, which I think completely invalidates that list right then and there. Because I'm sorry, Fortnite, but you are not as supported as Warframe is. And I'm sure we have a lot of Warframe fans. That's not easy to say really fast on or watching this recorded. Best game direction. Like, I don't know what that means. Do you have any idea what that entails?
I don't. I don't. I don't know. Like I don't like a best. When I think of like an Oscar of like best director, as a person who watches movies, I can't imagine what the skill is that goes into something behind the scenes. And for games, it's even worse. Like at least I know when a movie is made that you have actors and you have like a director just guides the actors and just the general like scene how it plays out. For a game producer or director or designer, the tasks change depending on the company you're at.
Yeah. Let's see. We have Best Art Direction, which The Return of the Obra Dinn got nominated, but I still think it's going to lose to Red Dead Redemption 2. I think everything is going to lose to that game just because of Money with that. Best Score Music presented by Spotify. Celeste is on the list. Ni no Kuni 2, which I have not played. Best Audio Design presented by Dolby. We have a different one. Let's see. Best Performance. Christopher Judge got nominated. Games for Impact. Let's see. Best Independent Game. No mention of stuff like Slay the Spire, though I guess it's not out yet. Let's see. The Messenger got nominated. I still need to play that one. Best Mobile Game. There's a game called Florence, which I have not heard of. Why is Fortnite and PUBG on Best Mobile Game? Why? I know I'm saying that kind of like I don't rhetorical, but I kind of want to know, why are they considered mobile games? Best VR AR game. Best Action Game. Dead Cells got nominated. Wait, why is Mega Man 11 and Far Cry 5 on Best Action Game?
I don't know.
Rob is just defeated at this point.
I'm defeated. I mean, half of these categories are guaranteed that I don't know anything about them. The other half are ones that I barely know what the nominees are going to be. It's just this is not my thing times 10.
Let's see. Best Action Game, Best Role-Playing Game, Best Fighting Game. Dragon Ball Fighter Z got on the list.
See, this is one where the blurred lines would call things into question for me. There's too many games that are cross genre, and it's difficult to tell what one is over the next.
The Best Family Game has Nintendo Labo on it, which that doesn't seem all that right. All right, Best Strategy Game. Wait a minute. Why is Frostpunk on the strategy game list? That's not strategy. That's a city builder. And now my head's going to start smoking. You're going to start to see smoke coming out of my ears. And strategy, not real-time or turn-based. Best sports/racing. Best multiplayer game. Oh, Fortnite's on the list. I'm sure that will win by default. Best student game. Not bad. Best debut indie game. Now that's a very random thing right there. Why is wait? Oh no, Dead Cells was the second game. Best esports game. Wait. Best esports game and best esports player. Alright, and I actually know a few of the people on this list. Sonic Fox got mentioned, as well as Taquito. And that's the extent of my fighting game community knowledge there, everybody. Best esports team, I have no idea. Best esports coach, I have no idea. Best esports event, how do you rate an esports event, Rob?
Well, the one thing that I have a tough time with is lumping all the esports in. It's like saying best athlete, period. You know, not best basketball player, not best soccer player, but best period athlete.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's just, apples and oranges sometimes.
Yeah.
It's
And
really strange.
And speaking about strategy games, I'm surprised, again, we don't see stuff like Stellaris, especially Stellaris as an ongoing game, considering, again, Paradox just never lets their games end. They just keep going on and on and on with more content. Best esports host, I have, again, how do you, rate this stuff? I
Well,
don't know.
some are very, the ones I only watch really Dota and then the NBA 2K League. So there's casters I like and casters I don't like so much, and teams and players I like and teams and players I don't like so much. But you go to Rocket League and I have no clue. You go to League of Legends and I have no clue. Like I'm so
Mm-hmm.
far out of any of that. So for me, they're completely different sports, and I can't pay attention to all of them as one lump sum category. I think it's impossible. But some people do better than others.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who know all of the the major IRL sports. Hockey, basketball, football.
Those
In America
strange
anyway.
things.
Yeah, football and baseball. Like it's easy enough to know all the big players in there, but to compare them all and say which player is the best athlete or which coach is the best amongst all of them is
Mm-hmm.
it's weird. It's a weird concept for me.
Yeah. Getting to your point, Melvin, is about Opus Magnum. My question is, how many people who go or at the Game Awards actually know who Zachtronics is? Because I would love, that would be amazing if one day we see a Zachtronics game being nominated for an award there. Because he definitely earns it for just the crazy things that go into his titles. And then the final award, and this is the one that hurts, that's just like a real gut punch for me, is Content Creator of the Year. Let's
Huh.
see. Dr. Lupo, I have no idea. Myth, Ninja, Pokimane, and Willy Rex. I have no idea who any of those people are besides Ninja, and that's just because Ninja is everywhere. But Rob, I didn't get mentioned. I just
That's a shame. Like I don't know. They obviously don't know what they're doing.
yeah. What does a guy have to do to be content creator of the year?
I don't know. 1 million followers probably is a good start.
Well, I got 1 million views on YouTube. Does
There
that?
you go. That's a good it's on the way.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, yeah. But I survived. We survived reading off the list there of all those awards.
Yeah.
But yeah, the thing for me is that, like I said earlier, I don't care. I do care about the Game Developers Award to some extent because it's developers nominating other developers. But again, it's just very hard to think about what all this actually means in the grand scheme of things. And this will be my final point at least, and I'll throw it over to you, Rob, because we're starting to run a little bit long here. These award shows and these conferences, it's just like with buying computer parts, they seem to become antiquated the day after. Again, we're always chasing the next big thing, so who cares about again, Sony's big announcement when in a few weeks we're going to get something else? Or what if it breaks a few weeks beforehand? Then why do we even need to go see the show? And with the award shows, again, we've seen this before with games that are critically reviewed but are commercially panned. A game like Red Dead Redemption 2 is not going to need the Gamer Award or the Games Award show to earn its money back. Let's face it's already earned it, probably, and then some in day 2 of being released. So why do I care if it wins an award? Is it going to make that game any better? Is it going to make those reviews any better? No. It would be nice to see more games get stood out for those that wouldn't be nominated or be looked at otherwise. Seeing Return of Obra Dinn on there is great. I would love for them to have given a honorary award to Getting Over It. Most frustrating game of the year or something like that. But again, this stuff just has no interest to me. So, what do you say about that, Rob?
I mean, I know that there is value for a Game of the Year, and that's simply because you can make a Game of the Year edition of your game and then sell a whole lot more copies. it seems like that is one of the biggest benefits you can do. You can stick a leaf on your game when you're advertising it. Um, yeah, I'm not the audience at all for this thing. I know there's a lot of people who are purely fans that are not that are not part of the industry and not necessarily interested in it. A lot of esports fans, and I'm sure they know all of that stuff. It's tough. Like, I would definitely need to go through that list and care enough to click on everything and really understand it. But I don't. And it's like with esports, I don't have enough interest in following all of them. I can barely follow one. That's kind of where I stand. It's a tough thing for me to follow and appreciate, because I've never ever in my entire life enjoyed award shows.
Oh, and as a very great final point to end on, I posted about that Womble thing on one of the forums I visited, and somebody responded about it. Apparently, there are a streamer who are playing CSGO in VR. How is CSGO tactical strategy, Rob? Can someone please tell me that before I start screaming?
I don't know. There's tactics, kind of.
All right, we need to. I think that's our time to end the show before my brain breaks. Yeah. Yes, this is for the Darkest Dungeon fans. I'm being stress attacked right now. Oh god, I think I'm about to have one of those the negative quirk situations in the Darkest Dungeon.
Oh, and I still have to dive into Darkest Dungeon. I know I bought it recently, so I have to play it now.
Oh, I would love to commentate on you playing that game, Rob. I'd love to kind of be like the the announcer there, saying, "And this is when Rob went horribly wrong and everybody died."
Okay, yeah, we'll have to do that where you can comment on me playing a game that you know supremely well. I know we never really got through Grim Dawn, but maybe this is the next one.
And we need to play Grim Dawn again when the next expansion comes out, because that looks really good.
Cool.
All right, but everybody, now we're going to end things. I need to go get a very stiff drink after everything we just said. But I'll be back later tonight for a classic game stream. And Rob, I know, you still haven't gone back to streaming yet, right?
No, and it's unlikely to happen anytime soon. I'm just, enjoying being able to play a game and watch some movies and catch up on movies at the same time. So that's been my weekends this lately, I should say.
All right. For people watching us live right now, you can find our Discord channel linked down below, where we talk about all manner of topics there. The Patreon, if you'd like to get access to the recording of this ad-free and uncut, as well as our grab bag voting, where each Saturday night I play random games voted on by the fans. So be sure to leave a vote down there. We'll be back next Sunday around 3:30 Eastern for our next show. And be sure to check back daily for discussions on game design here and on game wisdom, where they are in science of games. So, Rob, as always, it was a pleasure having you on. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, and hopefully we both won't go broke during Black Friday and Cyber Monday.
That sounds like a deal. I will glad you take up on not going broke. Yeah, thanks everybody. As always, I enjoy being here.
All right, so everybody, have a great Thanksgiving. Again, hopefully you guys don't go broke as well, and we will see you all next week for another great cast. Until then, have a great Sunday evening.